Hello and welcome to Low-Code Café. This is episode number 199 for Wednesday, August 26, 2026. Today we'll be talking about using client certificates for secure login workflows. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plantinap, and we're glad that you joined us. This is an event that we do monthly on the last Wednesday of the month, most of the time. And it's an opportunity for us to get together and show the things, show off techniques and technical attributes of Plantinap. And so we spend the most amount of our time on demos and hands-on coding, but we'll also talk some about updates as well. These are recorded and put on YouTube. You can get to them at youtube.com/plantanap. We'll run this agenda today. I'll be doing a um, from the trenches segment where we'll talk about updates of the product, and then we'll spend most of our time today on hands-on low coding, talking about using the certificates. But I do hope you'll engage with me. You can use the chat window or the Q&A window. You can raise your hand and talk and ask questions if you like, and then at the very end there'll be a feedback form, and we would hope that you would give us feedback on things, on what you saw or what you'd like to see in upcoming versions. The uh, the next live event is scheduled for Wednesday, September 30th. So again, last Wednesday of each month is our plan. So on we go to the From the Trenches segment. From the trenches of support, our current version of Plantinap is version 1.28. It was released on January 12th, 2026, and our standard support until window is through 1 year. So hopefully you are on version 1.28 or making plans to get there. And yeah, it is the only version that is currently within our support window. So please do make plans to get there. I wanted to um, take a moment and look at, since the last time that we got together, this is my 128 system that I keep up to date. And so if we go to the updates tab and look at cumulative hotfixes, there's one cumulative hotfix that is yet to be installed. We have some compatibility with DNN 10.3.3, although there is a known issue. So if you happen to be using our email sync add-on that lets you read from IMAP, it is not yet compatible with 10.3.1 or above. So if you're using those versions or contemplating upgrade and you use email sync, you can contact us. There is manual workarounds to make this possible, but if you don't need it, you can just stay away from it. In any case, I am going to work through the upgrade process. I select that and say that I want to prepare the update. The system is backed up and ready to go, so I can say that I understand that it's going to be reset and I have a backup and accept the risks. So we'll start. And I'm not going to wait for that to finish. I'm just going to set it aside. But that's the update process. And yep. So, and that's the only thing that I needed to address from the trenches today. We do an event on Fridays called Low-Code Campfire. It's the same hour, and it's most Fridays throughout the year, 10 a.m. Central Time. And we will take up talking about the certificates and any questions that you might have, more of a discussion format. Plus, it's a great group of people that get together once a week, and we look at Plantinap in general and the code that they're doing, the projects that you're working on or that we're working on. So we would encourage you to come to that. I'll put these links on the chat. These are, let me get it there here. So look in your chat window. Um, So these links include registering for Low-Code Campfire, as well as So you can use that link to register and get into Low-Code Campfire Friday. Our YouTube channel, our community portal, which is a great place to get your questions answered, not only by us, but by the community. And then that feedback form that I mentioned. If you use that Low-Code Cafe feedback form, you can tell us what you thought about this episode. The final resource is a link to the resources are um, that we'll be discussing today. There's a couple of workflows and a PowerShell script, and so I'll put all those out on our campfire.plantanapp.com website, and that way you'll be able to get to them and use them, and then we'll again also be discussing them in Campfire um, next Friday. All right, so let's dig in. Hands-on low coding using client certificates for secure login workflows. So client-based authentication in Plant and App. The session is about making client certificates, SSL certificates, part of the login process. And this can be especially relevant for highly secure. We have some government clients that use certificate smart card scenarios uh, to log in, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go. But the focus of what we're doing today is practical, understanding how the certificate flows and building a plant and app pattern to authenticate. You'll leave today with the tools and the workflows that you can adapt to do your own secure login implementations. So what we'll be building is a working certificate-based login flow. It's going to read um, that I have a system where I'll demonstrate that we can set up these certificates and how the certificate information flows into Plant and App, how to extract it, and then being able to match that so that you can do an automatic login or whatever your particular security flow requires. For our case, we're going to build an auto login experience. So if your browser presents the certificate, you'll be able to log in without any username password. And so think about a scenario where you have a workstation that's logged in, and the user is logged in through Windows, and that gives them access to the right resources. That when they sign in to the website, they get access without having to log in because they've done it through their PC. Um, and so it just kind of makes it frictionless versus somebody else wouldn't even be able to access the site. So let's talk about certificate flow. When you have a certificate, your browser is going to present that automatically to the site that is configured either to require or to accept certificates. So if it's set up right in IIS, the certificate flows to the IIS, and the server, the IIS, decides whether or not it's trusted before even allowing uh, access to the application. So we'll get into exactly what that looks like. But once it's trusted, then your application will have access to the contents of the certificate. And then at a plant and app level, you can decide what to do, how to drive authentication logic or look up a user or however you want to use it. Um, there's the browser, and you'll see this happen many times as I experiment today. The browser can let you choose to select a certificate, and you can go forward without a certificate, or you might have a certificate that's not trusted by the website, or it is trusted by the website, and we'll see exactly what that looks like in those different cases. But it makes that identity information, whatever's in the certificate, is going to be available to your application. And so it can result in the user being logged in automatically or however you want to implement it. Um, so let's look at the way the site is set up. The site, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on configuring the site. That there's a lot of variation there, but I have a site that is configured to require a client certificate, and requiring it means that users without a good certificate are blocked before they even get to the site. Or yeah, at the IIS level. And as I mentioned, we're going to focus more about how PlantSnap uses it than how to do the server setup detail. So let's see what it looks like. First of all, and I apologize, there's going to be a lot of bouncing around today because uh, let me move this up out of the way because we be looking at at my server. So I have an IIS server that in the site definition, looking at the SSL settings, I've chosen to require SSL and to require client certificates. So that's there's a little bit more setup that I had to do to get the negotiation to happen, but that's really, again, beyond the scope of today. You can work through your particular server setup. But if you have this security scenario, then what happens is when you browse to the site, and this is my site here. I'm just going to copy this link. One thing that you'll find when you're practicing this is that when you have when you have a standard browser session, the first time that you hit the site, it does the handshake and decides what certificate's going to be used, and then that just remains each time. And so by going incognito to my test site, it will start over every time. And so that's why I'm going incognito. So I have a couple of certificates to choose from here, and I'm going to pick one of them and say OK. And I arrive at my site. It says that it's asking me to log in. But notice this here. This is already showing that it knows it's able to read the certificate that I'm presenting. I have a login that's already set up. We're going to be rebuilding this as the course of today. But just clicking the login gets me to log in automatically. I'm logged in to the site now, and it knows who I am, and I didn't have to do a thing. So it's used the certificate to make that happen. I'm going to go to that same URL. I'm going to start a new incognito session and go to the exact same site again, but this time I'm going to say cancel. I'm not going to present a certificate. And notice that I get a forbidden access denied. This is at the IIS level. And if you were to browse to this same URL, this is exactly what you'd get because you don't have a certificate. So that's kind of the setup of where we're going today to be able to read that certificate and to be able to get logged in automatically. So we'll stick with my presentation here. Um, So what's the certificate thing? You can have a certificate, and we'll do this. We'll generate a certificate and see what happens. But you just having a certificate is not enough because the server has to trust it. If it doesn't trust it or it's issuing authority, then you're going to get bounced with that error message that we've already seen. But once trust is established, then you're able to get through. I'm using a very simple scenario where I'm going to generate a self-signed certificate and explicitly tell the server that it's okay to trust that certificate. But your scenario may vary. You could use that scenario, but you could also, if you have an authority that's releasing the certificates, then rather than trusting the certificates one by one, you can choose to trust the authority, and then anybody that has one of those certificates that is valid can get through. All right. So for the demo, as I said, we're going to generate a self-signed certificate, and that's through a PowerShell script. And then we're going to be able to see it. So let's do just that much. Look at the PowerShell. I have PowerShell up and going here. And by the way, this particular script is one of the things that is available on campfire.plantnap.com in that link that I put. So this script, what it says is that we're defining a subject that's going into the certificate. We're telling it where it's going to where it's going to put the certificate or the public certificate. We're going to create it using um, uh, PowerShell's new self-signed certificate. Uh, and so it gets exported and it gets displayed. So I am going to run the script. Let's start with looking at my temp folder here. Temp folder is empty, and I run the script. The result of it is that now we have a certificate here, and if we look at the cert, the Manage User Certificates tool within Windows, and look at the personal certificates, a certificate got generated here in my personal store. So this now when I try to sign into the site, I can choose any of these three certificates that are there to present to the site. So now we have an Uncle Q Sam certificate available. So that's generating it. Let's see what happens and where it gets stored, both the public version and it's stored and ready to use in my browser. So now let's repeat this same, wrong thing, new incognito window, go to the PAA test, and now see I have the Uncle Sam certificate available to me. And so it's a valid certificate, but I still get access is denied because the server doesn't know anything about it, doesn't know to trust it. So that's step one. Um, so yeah, let's move on. So the next step is that we want to tell the server that it's okay to trust that certificate. So after we create it, we can copy that up to the server and use the certlm.msc, this certificate for the local machine, and tell it to trust it. And so we've already demonstrated what happens. If it doesn't trust it, you're going to get that red screen. Let's get it up onto the server. So we go to our temp folder. Here's the public certificate. I'm going to copy that, go to my server, and I have a temp folder here. I'm going to paste it. So now it's up into the server. And if I use certlm MSC, that I can go to this trusted root certificate, and you can see my other one is here already, but the Uncle Sam one is not. I'm going to import from my temp folder and place it here. And it'll tell me it's finished here in a moment. So after doing that, we can now see that it's in the um, certificate store and available to IIS. And so now what we're going to find is that at the IIS level, it's now going to trust my browsers. So let's try that. We'll do an incognito session and select Uncle Sam. And it's bringing me here to the site. It's giving the please log in dialog, but my site doesn't know anything about the certificate yet. So when I try to use my automatic login form, it says, oh, it's not valid. Um, so we're getting all the information for first name, middle initial, last name, all available here on the when there's this portion called EDIPI. Um, you can see it here. I'm extracting it from this subject. So 02468, this is going to be the unique number for, and I'm going to end up using this as a user ID. It's testing the validity between this certificate is valid between now and, excuse me, from now until next year. We can see that it's self-issued, that it's valid. And this is exactly the information I'm going to show you how to extract as we go on today. So to close the loop on this a little bit, if I go I'm on my site here, already logged in as a super user. And if I go to my users and add a user, this is my particular implementation is set to look at the username. So if I go Sam here and give it the 02468 username, and we'll give it an email address here as well. Um, I'm going to generate a random password and save. So now there's a user exists with 02468 in the site. So now if I were to use that same certificate and 02468 is here. If I go to my login page, it logs me in automatically. That's just the function of the form to say, look at this information. Ah, he has a good certificate. It matches my user requirements, and so I'm going to log him in automatically. So we now get this nice login flow. And if the link, there's lots of ways to implement this, but if you implement it so that um, you give people the login directly, what you'll see is that they log in and they don't even see, they're automatically logged in and bounce to the home page. You could provide a redirect URL, for example, and get them to wherever you want them to go in the site. And so that, um, yeah, so that's the implementation we're going for. All right. So we've got it trusted. And so let's talk about some scenarios. Um, the scenario that we're using today is where the certificate picker appears within the browser, but it can be set up so that the certificate passes silently. You can set up a browser policy to automatically do it, or an enterprise level policy to automatically do it, so that somebody opens the browser and it picks the right one and sends it along. And so um, there's that's a scenario. There's also this if you've got a smart card type of hardware, and so somebody has to have uh, a special card, they insert it into a device, and then it transfers it as the browser opens, and so that gets them onto the site. So a couple of different ways to do it. We're picking, kind of an easy scenario today where we're doing it. The browser just knows that a certificate is required and presents the list to pick from, but you can have more advanced flows. All right. Um, so once the browser reaches that certificate protected site, the certificate is available to uh, uh, it presents the certificates that they have available, and that becomes part of the request going back and forth. Once they've selected one, then it's part of the request, and uh, the details um, are available to the server. So how do you get access to it? Um, Razor is one easy way to do it, and so I'm going to show you the simplest level of Razor script that can do it. If we look in tokens, I've set up a script here that I'm going to edit, and it's nothing more than this. At request.clientCertificate.subject.toString. This will take the subject from a certificate, if it's available, and display it. So if we run this test, it's getting the subject off of my certificate um, and displaying it. So uh, implementation could be as simple as this, although I'm going to give you one um, that provides a lot more information and not a lot of effort on your part to get access to all of it. So Razor can do that. And let's see, for what it's worth, my homepage uses this this token just to display that it's working. So let's see, we edit the content and take a look. That authentication client certificate subject is being displayed. And so this is kind of simple confirmation that that Razor token works and is available for wherever you want to use a token. All right, so I'm going to provide you two workflows, and I'm not going to. I'll show them to you. We're not going to work through development on these, but we'll work through development of using them. So the first one is to it extracts most and try. It really is intended to do all, but I'm not sure about all the variations of certificates. But we're trying to extract all of the data in JSON so that you have within Plant and App a way to get to all the content. I'm gonna have a browser window available here to look at. One moment. All right. So, and then I'm also revealing some other key values, and you're going to get an access to this. So let's see what it looks like. This workflow is called get certificate at JSON as JSON. When we run it, we get I've pulled out some certain values, so whether or not it's present, the subject, the simple name, whether or not it's within validity, the from, the until, whether or not it's self-issued. So I've pulled out certain values, but all the values are available here in JSON. And I'm going to paste this JSON in so we can look at it. Um, so as I said, I picked some of the values out, the ones that I needed for my implementation, but you could pull out any of the values that you need. So the subject and the simple name and things like that. But lots of information within the certificate, and all of it's going to be available to you through that workflow. Let me set that back aside. So what does this workflow look like? Well, again, it's already on the Campfire website, so you can get a look at it. But there's really two main actions that are going on. One is a Razor script that is heavily documented and makes it a lot longer than it needs to be. You could remove the documentation, but it tells exactly what it's doing to pull out the things pull out all of the individual pieces, and the result is it returns something called JSON. So that JSON that we looked at that has all the content is being stored in a token called JSON. And then the rest of this is just parsing it to get the pieces that I want. So by parsing JSON into cert, now cert contains the top level pieces of information. And this is a standard pattern and one of the most frequent questions I get on the support desk. How do I parse multi-level JSON? Well, you do the first level and then you do the second level as you need to. So we have, um, by doing this, you get the entire certificate parsed into cert. And then I wanted individual pieces of this. So cert identity, let's look at that one. Cert identity is so the whole certificate is this level of the thing of the JSON, but I wanted to get to the different pieces of identity. So by parsing identity out, I can now get to subject and subject name and simple name, and can't get to these things individually here. That's another level that I'd have to parse out, but I can get to the top the next level by doing that technique. So I'm parsing that to identity, and then if we look at my outputs, the subject can now be retrieved by using identity colon subject, and the simple name can be used get to by identity colon simple name. So I've done that same thing two more times. I've parsed out from the same cert. I'm taking cert certificate and putting it into a token called certificate, which then gives me the ability to pull out whether or not it's self-issued. Certificate colons is self-issued. And then I've pulled out in the same way, the IIS. So parsing out cert IIS to the IIS level. I didn't pull out everything, and if you're watching this in replay and you need something that's part of the JSON that's not here, you can just add another parse level to get to, for example, the public key section of the JSON. Anyway, so just installing this workflow on a system that's set up that way is going to give you access to uh, these. I mean, there are no inputs. It's just looking at your certificate, going to give you access to these pulled out fields plus the whole JSON if you want to pull out something else. Okay. Um, so that's part one. And then if we move on, there's another workflow that I'm giving you, and this is one that we needed in our particular security scenario that we solved. Um, so there's if the information is presented as last name, first name, middle name, ID, separated by dots. That's what this particular workflow solves. So we want to parse that out into pieces. And so if you got last name, first name, middle, ID, this gives us the pieces of that split out. If it's malformed in any way, like there's not enough dots or too many dots, then it errors out and it says it's not valid and doesn't give anything back. So it's forcing a good, a parsing of what we expect as the simple name. So we'll be taking advantage of that in the next phase. And I suppose it's worth a quick look. This is at the heart of it. I chose SQL as the vehicle to do that parsing. Could do there's other approaches. Could be JSON, Razor script, whatever. SQL was easy for me, and so it's doing the error checking to see if there are other than the right structure, the right number of dots, and then using placeholders, finding the dots, and returning um, from the from the whole thing. Um, using those placeholders to pick out, and that's the entire script. It's just a quick run against SQL to return those things. So nothing too terribly exotic. But then once it pulls all those things out into it's pulling them out into what is the output here? Parsed name. Then we can get to the pieces by parse name, last name, parse name, colon, first name, and on like that. All right, so those are the two workflows. I would expect you would just be able to import them into your system and to be able to use and modify them to get at the certificate data and the lower level of data that we're going to need. So halfway in here, we are at the point where we can start to build something within Plantain app. What we want to do is build a form that's going to get at all this information and uh, use it to log them in automatically. But along the way, we can use it to display the information. So if something goes wrong, we have access to the information. Um, so let's do that. I'm going to create a brand new page, and it's actually re-implementing what I've already done, but so that you can see the steps. So this is we're going to do an add page, and we're going to call it auto login and make it available to everyone. Actually, but not registered user. Well, doesn't matter. We'll make it available to everyone. It won't disappear. So we add it, and we're going to add a form to it. Of course, if anyone has any questions, please post them either to the chat or to question and answer. So we are going to add a form, in this case, an action form, and this is going to be our auto login form. So we'll manage it, give it a name, blank form. And what we're going to do is take advantage of those workflows that we already have developed. So if we, on our pre-init, if we add an action that is get certificate as JSON action, running this workflow, doesn't have any inputs, but lots of outputs. And so we're going to output all these fields into our context. So we'll just do a little copy and paste exercise here. I want all of them. If we don't map them, they don't come out. So just running this, now all of these are in our context here in our pre-initialize. And so if we were to create a field on the form called subject, then um, that's going to display. So let's add a text field and call it subject, and that's it. So with nothing more than that much, if we, oh, I gotta get back to my page and I can close my, so now we have a subject. We got Bootstrap 5 issues. I didn't set this page up correctly, so let me get that solved. So this, in my appearance, I need default BS5. I need a BS5 theme to make that message go away. All right. So without doing anything more than that, we now have the subject coming out of our certificate just because that workflow knows how to read it. And I am going to now take a minute and get all that information out onto the form and maybe lay it out a little bit, but I can just do that by, I need all the different pieces that are available to me. So the next one is, I'm just going to clone this and call it simple name. Just all these different outputs that come from that. So for just a minute, I'm going to put in a large text and do the JSON, just so that we can see everything that comes as outputs from that workflow. But we do this and refresh, and now all the different pieces that we are extracting from the workflow get us the values. So this was something that was this was the certificate that was created 2 days ago and is valid for almost a year forward. If I look at a different certificate, let's do this in an incognito browser and pick my Uncle Sam, we get Uncle Sam's information transferred, and it's the one we created today, and it's good for a year. And now we see all the different JSON is available to us. Now, all that's a little bit of overkill for what we're doing, but let's do a little bit of rearranging. First of all, I'm not going to need this, so I'm going to delete it. And then let's lay out our other stuff a little bit. I want yeah, it's got a top layout and And this is just for convenience purposes, but it looks a little nicer. So we refresh. So now same information, but just lay it out a little nicer. So the next thing I want to do is I need these parts and pieces, and so I'm going to use my other workflow to get at them. And so we go to, we'll add another workflow that is about the simple name. And the thing that we want to parse is already on the screen. It's called simple name, so we can do that. And the output will just wire all these. So now we need to get them on the screen as well. Last name, first name, middle name, EDI, PI are all in our context now. And so we can first name, last name, middle name, and the EDI, PI. So again, I'm taking a simplification step. Anybody watching in replay, this is, I'm just naming my fields the same as they came out, as they're created over here in the events, so that I don't have to work very hard to get them to be on the screen. So now we're seeing the workflow does its work and it's all parsed out the way it's supposed to be, and we can use that. So now a nice little bit of layout work. We'll do first, middle, last, and the unique identifier. Make it look nice. So somebody comes to the site right now, if they have a certificate and browse to auto log in, it gets all the information up on the screen, but it doesn't do anything. So this is really how far we, going back to our slides and keeping me on track, we're able to get it up onto the screen and display debugging ready to go. So the next step is to connect it to an application user. And in my demo, the idea is we're going to take that ID and use it to search plant an app to get them connected, and then use the auto login. If the user is found, we can automatically log them in. And if no user is found, we give a nice failure path. So let's see what that would look like. In our events, we can start checking and see if I can find the first thing we need to know is, does this user exist? So the idea is that this is going to be the username. And if I look in SQL console and L, do it that way, get a little bit less crazy. So that's the ID that we're looking for, that if it matches here, we're going to log them in as user 4. And if it doesn't exist here, then they don't get logged in. That's our scenario. You could have a different scenario that you want to do. So we need to do SQL that looks for, hey, can I find a user that matches by username? And so that SQL looks, that's the next action then that we're going to do. We're going to do a run SQL action. And the query we're going to run is get the user ID from users where the username is something. And we're going to bind username to the UDI PI. That's the field on the form that holds uh, the user ID. So it gets populated here. EDI PI gets created up based on the simple name. And then we start looking, does user ID exist? So this is going to return one of two things. It's either going to return a user ID or a blank. And so now we are going to be able to figure out whether they have a match. Um, So in my next set, this is all about seeing whether or not they're logged in. I'm going to do this within an execute actions because it kind of keeps it clean. Um, what we're going to test is if the user is not logged in. So we can tell whether the user is logged in by checking user ID. If that is equal to blank. So this action, this automatic login, is only going to happen if they are not logged in. And this way, the form can display and show all the information for a user who is logged in, and that gives us some nice debugging capability. But then we can also say we also want to check is valid. Did we get is valid on the? I don't think we put it on the screen. Oh, yep, it's there. Is valid is true. So if it's a valid certificate and if it's within validity and uh, within validity is here. So we're testing, is it a good certificate? Is this date good? Um, so if all those things are true, they're not logged in and it's a valid certificate and it's hasn't expired, then we're going to get them to log in. And I'm going to do that again in another execute actions. So I can stack several things, but this is all going to happen only if they're not logged in. And yep. And so what we're going to do in here is to create an auto login link. And the auto login link, this is the feature that uh, if somebody uses this link, it will let them log into the site. The um, I skipped a step here, and I'm going to have to go back and fix it before I move on. This run SQL query, the result of it needs to be stored in user ID. So the user ID that we get here, we're also going to put it onto the form, and I need to make a place for it on the form. So this is going to be user ID. And so the result of that SQL is going to be to fill in this box with whether or not it'll either be, if the SQL succeeds, they'll have a user ID. If it doesn't succeed, it'll be blank. So now this makes this make sense. So um, in our create auto login link, we can use the user ID as the user that they get logged in as. And then where are we going to go? We're going to go to the home if they get logged in. I don't have an error page. I'm going to send them to a 404 page if something doesn't work out right. Um, and I'm just keeping as simple an implementation as possible. They can use this login link once. It's only going to be valid for, I'm going to make it just valid for a minute. So this is a start date and offset. I'm going to start from right now and make it valid for 1 minute. This will actually happen almost immediately, but the output is going to be called login link. This is going to give us a link that we can go to, and then we'll do a redirect to URL and go to the login link. Oops. and it'll just jump there. So if they successfully log in, they get logged in, and let's go ahead and handle the error condition too. If anything goes wrong in that, we're going to use a create update tokens to create a value called error message. And we're going to give it a nice little the user ID is not valid message. And so I need to put error message up on the form as well so that if anything goes wrong, they get the error message. All right, so let's do that. We're going to add a static text called error message. So if anything goes wrong, they'll get the error message. I want that to be prominent, so I'm going to move it up to the top of the page. Um, so you can see it at work. This EDI gets compared to the username and it comes out with user ID number 4. And because we have user ID number 4, this auto login link should work. So let's give it a try. If we copy this and start a incognito session and choose Uncle Sam, it just auto logs in automatically. They're logged in as Uncle Sam. Bing, bang, boom. It's Uncle Sam with my email address, but yeah, that's what we said. And if we leave them the ability to browse to the auto login page, we get to see all their information. You'd probably just hide this page so that there's no reason to reveal all this stuff from the certificate. But from a debugging standpoint, it's very useful. All right. We have pretty well gotten to where I wanted to get to today. It's a great time if you have questions about what we accomplished, but I'm going to go on a little bit if you want to post anything. So this is, we did this. We made sure that the certificate is present, it's valid, it's within its validity period. When we created the auto login link, you could do more checks. So making sure that the issuer was who you expected it to be, or if there are any other organization-specific rules, you have access to all the fields within the JSON. Um, and so we created the auto login link and it happened automatically. Um, we made this I guess we should test that path of what happens if they don't have a valid user ID. And I'm just going to simulate that really quick by editing my Uncle Sam user and changing the username. So if we do that same test again for the Uncle Sam and present Uncle Sam's certificate, he's not going to get logged in because he doesn't have a valid user. This 02468 doesn't match anything. Um, user ID is blank, and so that error message gets set up. So it just shows that the error path works. Um, and um, yeah, demonstrating that during development, you can show all that error information and all the certificate information, but you might choose not to show everything in a production system, or only show it with some security around it. So just from an idea standpoint, optional security, our scenario was if you have the certificate, you can log in. Well, on a browser-based thing, maybe a shared browser, two people using it, just having a certificate might not be enough. So you still might run them through the username and password thing, or do a two-factor authentication, or an email or PIN or whatever you want to use to make sure it's the right person. Um, and that's highly configurable with Lantern app. You can go wherever you want to go with that. But, I just took kind of the simplest, um, lowest common denominator. If they have the certificate, we let them in. And you should really think about how you want to use this. As I was exploring this, I was thinking about the scenario where if somebody has, if you have a site that's on the internet, but the only people that need it's not generally, anybody in the world can browse to it. You really only want people who are authorized to be able to browse to it. That might be a really neat use case scenario. You turn on that required certificate, you hand out certificates to the people who the few people that have access. Anybody else that tries to browse to your site gets automatically rejected. The people um, who are who have a valid certificate that hasn't expired, they get right into the site. So that might be a really good use case for this. We have use cases specifically with the government where um, they have it set up that way, and people are using cards to plug in. So we want to in that case the card is enough to do it, and everybody else gets locked out. So that's that. I put it on the chat before, but I'm not sure if anybody who's joined late has that. So I'm going to add it one more time in chat. That these are available on our Campfire website, so you get that ability to self-sign. Um, I'll add a little bit more, um, make this a little bit, provide extra information and a link back to our the recording of this video, but it gives you the PowerShell to create a certificate if you want to go the self-signed route, the ability to, and then both of these workflows are accessible as well. So that's leaving you with that. And yeah, just a reminder that in production, you're going to want to think this through. That are we going to rely on a self-signed scenario where you you import each certificate that's valid the way that I did, or whether it's you're going to trust an authority and have an authority issue the certificate. So that way you just have one trust setup in your server, and you could have any number of certificates that get authorized, whatever your authorization path is. Um, you want to make sure that uh, it is possible, by the way, that you can set up to where a site can accept certificates but not require them, which is kind of cool because people who don't have a certificate can still sign in using user ID and password. People who have them could sign in with certificates. You're just going to have to be careful with that and test it out because um, once it starts accepting them, it might your browser, your users' browsers might start prompting them for it, even if they don't have one, and so that might not be what you want. So you just have to figure out what your setup works for you. Yep. So final questions. Anybody with questions? Other than that, we will definitely take this up in low-code Campfire 2 days from now, and it can be a conversation. Any question that you didn't want to ask, or what about this case? We'd love to continue the discussion. Since there are none, I will say thank you for spending your hour with us, and we will see you again 1 month from now for another episode of Low-Code Cafe. Thanks all.